You ever have one of those moments where you're just trying to have a little fun, maybe hang some Halloween lights, and someone comes along and tries to suck the joy right out of your soul? That was me last October, standing on my front lawn in the middle of Willow Creek Estates. Watching Sharon call me President, Reynolds lose her mind over a plastic skeleton that was apparently scarier than her HOA rulebook. By the time it was over, I'd turned my yard into a neighborhood legend and Sharon into a glitter-covered meme that's probably still haunting her nightmares. I'm Ellie, a graphic designer who loves going all out for holidays. Especially Halloween. Give me cobwebs, jack-o'-lanterns, and a good spooky vibe any day. My husband, Nate, and I had moved into Willow Creek 2 years ago. A tidy little suburb where the lawns are manicured and the mailboxes are beige by mandate. It was nice enough, but the HOA, led by Sharon, was like living under a dictator with a perm and a vendetta against fun. Sharon was in her late 50s, always in a pastel cardigan, clutching her clipboard like it was the Constitution. Her eyes darting for anything that didn't scream suburban perfection. She'd fine you for a crooked shutter or a kid's bike left out past dusk. Her maroon Buick Enclave was the neighborhood's grim reaper, cruising slowly, hunting for violations. I'd gotten a few of her passive-aggressive notes before my marigolds were too vibrant. My welcome mat clashed with the aesthetic, but I'd always kept the peace, mostly because I didn't have the energy to fight her. Until Halloween rolled around. And Sharon picked the wrong skeleton to mess with. It started innocently enough. I set up a 6-foot plastic skeleton on our porch, holding a sign that said spooky vibes only. With a couple of foam tombstones and some purple string lights I'd snagged at a yard sale. Nothing crazy, just enough to make the trick-or-treaters smile. I was still tweaking the setup when Sharon came marching up my driveway, her sensible loafers clacking like a war drum, her face pinched like she'd just smelled a skunk. "Ellie," she said, pointing at my skeleton like it was a war crime, "this display violates Section 7, Clause 12 of the HOA bylaws. Holiday decor must be tasteful and non-disruptive." I blinked, thinking she was joking. "It's October 5th, Sharon. It's a skeleton with a sign." She raised an eyebrow, her voice dripping with superiority. "That skeleton is menacing. My corgi, Princess, was trembling this morning. And those lights? They're garish." I just stared, wondering if her corgi had written the complaint itself. She handed me a pink violation slip and strutted off, leaving me equal parts annoyed and amused. I figured I'd tone it down to avoid the hassle. Nobody wants to start a war over a $10 skeleton. So, the next day, I took it all down, the skeleton. The lights, even the tombstones, stashing them in the garage. I thought that'd be the end of it. But then I noticed something weird. My tombstones were gone. Not just moved, but snapped in half. Tossed in my side yard like trash. My string lights were missing entirely. And there, taped to my front door, was another pink slip. Non-compliant decor removed for community standards. Removed? I hadn't removed a damn thing. I started asking around, and my neighbor, Jen, who's basically the neighborhood gossip hub, spilled the tea. Apparently, Sharon had been bragging at a book club about cleaning up Ellie's tacky Halloween mess, calling my setup a moral eyesore. Jen overheard her say she'd send her HOA cronies to handle it. I was livid, not just because they'd trashed my stuff, but because Sharon thought she could bully me on my own property. That's when I decided, if Sharon wanted to play dirty, I was about to turn her precious bylaws into my personal playground. I didn't yell or storm her house. Instead, I went inside, poured a glass of wine, and opened my laptop. I pulled up the HOA bylaws, every single page of that soul-crushing document, and started planning. If Sharon thought my skeleton was menacing, I was going to give her a Halloween display so epic, so perfectly legal, and so pointedly aimed at her that she'd choke on her own clipboard. My goal wasn't just to decorate. It was to make Sharon see her own reflection in every fake cobweb and plastic bone, all while staying within the rules. I spent hours sketching ideas, each one pettier than the last, my inner artist cackling with glee. Sharon had started a war, but I was about to win it with glitter and spite. First, I brought back the skeleton, but this time, I gave him a glow-up, a curly brunette wig to match Sharon's perm, a tiny clipboard with a list of violations, and a sign above his head that read, "Welcome, HOA Inspector Skelly." I upgraded my lighting to a pro-grade fog machine that sent mist curling across the lawn like it was auditioning for a horror movie. Then came the tombstones, dozens of them, each with a jab at Sharon's reign. One read, R.I.P. Neighborhood Fun, killed by Sharon's pen, 2023. Another said, here lies creativity, find a death. The star of the show was a mannequin dressed as Sharon. Same cardigan, same perm, same pinched expression, rigged with a motion sensor that screeched, violation detected. Cease festivity. Whenever anyone got close. It was dollar store decor with PhD-level pettiness, and every piece complied with the bylaw's vague, tasteful seasonal decor clause. I checked and double-checked. Even had Nate read the rules to make sure I was bulletproof. The neighborhood ate it up. Kids giggled at the screaming mannequin, parents snapped photos. And Jen nearly snorted her coffee when she saw the Inspector Skelly's sign. Sharon, though? She was a volcano ready to erupt. I caught her standing on her porch across the street, clutching a wine glass like it was her lifeline, staring at my yard with a look that could have melted steel. I gave her a cheery wave. She didn't wave back, just spun around and started pacing. Already on her phone, probably calling her HOA minions or a lawyer. The next morning, a letter was taped to my mailbox. No envelope, just pure Sharon rage in ink. Cease all Halloween activities immediately due to targeted harassment of HOA leadership. Harassment? That was rich. I mailed her back a copy of the bylaws, highlighted in neon yellow, with a note. See Section 7, Clause 12. Happy Halloween. I wasn't stopping, not when I was just getting started. I took it up a notch, filing an official HOA event notice for a Willow Creek Spooky Trail. A free, family-friendly haunted walk through my yard, open to all ages. It was legal, it was festive, and it was a giant middle finger to Sharon's control fetish. I even got a local bounce house company to donate one for the kids, making it impossible for her to call it disruptive without looking like a monster. By Halloween night, my yard was a masterpiece, fog rolling, tombstones glowing, the Sharon mannequin shrieking on loop, and a Bluetooth speaker playing eerie music laced with whispers of HOA rules like no visible lawn ornaments and neutral exterior tones only. It was nightmare on Sharon Street. And the neighborhood showed up in droves. The line of trick-or-treaters stretched down the block. A local mom started live streaming, and the video hit 15,000 views before the candy ran out. Kids were bouncing, parents were laughing, and I was in a glow-in-the-dark ghost hoodie, handing out Snickers like a holiday hero. Then Sharon snapped. She came charging through the crowd like a bull in a cardigan, her face redder than the fake blood on my tombstones. This is a disgrace, she yelled, waving her clipboard at me. You're mocking the sanctity of our community. I just smiled, offering her a candy bar. Lighten up, Sharon. It's Halloween. She didn't take the candy. Instead, she tripped over a tombstone, the one that said, "Here lies the fun police, 1965 to 2023, and face-planted into the fog machine, coming up with fake cobwebs tangled in her perm. The crowd went silent, then burst into laughter as my motion-activated scare cam caught the whole thing in glorious HD. I uploaded it that night, titled HOA Queen vs. Halloween, The Great Tumble. And the comments were brutal. Someone remixed it with Monster Mash, syncing her fall to the beat. Another added cartoon sound effects every time she flailed. It was viral gold. And Sharon was the unwilling star. You'd think that'd be the end, but Sharon wasn't one to go quietly. At the next HOA meeting, she showed up looking like she was ready to sue the entire holiday of October. Hair slicked back, a stack of papers thicker than a phone book, her voice trembling with righteous fury. I propose a motion, she said, standing up like she was addressing Congress, that all future decorations require pre-approval to protect the moral and aesthetic integrity of Willow Creek. The room went dead quiet. Then Mr. Larson, a retiree who usually just nodded along, muttered, "Moral integrity? It's a skeleton, not a strip club." A few people snorted. And Sharon's motion crashed and burned. No votes, not even from her usual lackeys. She stormed out, her loafers echoing like gunfire. I figured she'd back off, but Sharon doubled down. The next morning, I found 3 violation slips on my door. One for overgrown grass, it was barely an inch. One for visible garden tools, a trowel by my roses. And one for, get this, hostile decor intent. I laughed so hard Nate thought I was choking. That's when I knew the gloves were off. Thanksgiving was next, and I didn't hold back. I set up Sharon's Harvest of Harmony, a display with a scarecrow version of her, cardigan, perm, clipboard, holding a sign that said, "Thou shalt not celebrate." Around her were cardboard pumpkins locked in tiny cages with labels like "Too Festive" and "Unapproved Orange Hue." Neighbors brought their kids to see it. Someone dropped off a thermos of cider. And Jen started calling it the Sharon Shrine. Sharon just sat on her porch, glaring, her arms crossed so tight I thought she'd snap in half. Christmas was where I went full scorched earth. I rigged an animated light show synced to Jingle Bells with a snow machine and a life-sized Santa firing candy canes from a foam cannon. The crowning touch? A glowing sign across my roof. All decor approved by the spirit of spite. Sharon filed an emergency complaint, claiming the lights were a public nuisance, but the board shut it down before she could finish her rant. Her power was slipping, her reputation shredded, and the neighborhood was buzzing with holiday cheer for the first time in years. I'd turned her own rules against her, and it felt like victory. Accusing me of creating a hostile environment through targeted mockery of HOA leadership. It demanded I stop immediately or face further action. I could have ignored it, but where's the fun in that? Instead, I organized a reconciliation rally in my front yard, complete with a banner that read, "We're sorry, Sharon, just kidding." I set up cardboard cutouts of her with speech bubbles like, "Stop having fun," and "Festivity is a felony." Neighbors showed up with lawn chairs, a local high school band offered to march through, and kids ran around with paper Sharon wigs, waving tiny clipboards. I even gave a mock speech, microphone in hand, about healing through festive accountability, winking at the crowd. It was absurd, it was glorious, and it was the final straw. Sharon lost it completely, spectacularly. She stormed onto my lawn, screaming about lawsuits, emotional distress, and defamation by decor. She ripped a sign in half, stomped on a cutout of herself, and then, oh, this was the best part, tried to grab a teenager's phone as he filmed her. She slipped, face planting into a snow machine I'd rigged with biodegradable glitter for the rally. She came up sparkling like a disco ball, flailing in a cloud of shimmer while the crowd roared. Someone yelled, "And the Oscar for Best Meltdown goes to Sharon." Phones were out, videos were rolling, and by nightfall, the clip was everywhere. Reddit, TikTok, even the local news Quirky Stories segment. The HOA had no choice but to act. At an emergency meeting, Sharon showed up late, still flecked with glitter, her voice shaking as she demanded my expulsion. The board, fed up with her tantrums, suspended her indefinitely, citing conduct unbecoming of leadership. Word got around that she'd tried to bribe a neighbor with $20 to back her and still lost the vote. A week later, I got a Venmo payment, $300 from Sharon, with a memo, "In this nonsense." I screenshotted it, printed it, and hung it above my desk, labeled "The Day Spite Won." She never paid the other 10 fines she'd slapped on me, but it didn't matter. She'd cracked, and I had the receipt. 3 months later, Sharon was gone, moved out. Her house sold to a young couple who immediately put up a neon green